Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Money with Alpha. This week I wanted to talk about a topic that has come up quite a bit when when you're a mum and different lessons and guidance tends to come in. And one of the topics that's come up quite regularly over the last, at least few months anyway, has been how to become comfortable with discomfort. And you sort of don't realize as an adult, I guess, we're always on a learning curve. But when you're a child, there's just so many things that you're having to learn like all at once. And there's knowledge and there's, emotions and skills and learning to ride a bike without training wheels, learning to swim, learning to read and write and how to, function and socialize in society. And there's so many things that kind of come your way. So there's a lot of discomfort there. And I remember when I was a kid, and it sort of makes you reflect as a parent, what was I like? I remember there was something that I used to say all the time, which was, I know, which I think was a bit of a protection thing, because it's like, if I say I know, then I'm feeling a little bit more confident in myself that I actually know something. When in fact you actually don't. So then it almost feels worse, because you know that you really don't know, but you just don't want to admit that you don't know. So you just say I know and hope that ends the conversation. So I see this happening with my daughter, and there's a lot of similarities. I have to make sure I keep reminding myself she is not me. She still has her own personality, and there are still her beautiful uniquenesses. But I can still see a lot of me in her. So whenever my husband gets frustrated with things, I was like, well, that was me. At the same age, I can see so much of myself in her. So I have a little bit more patience and tolerance for that, and probably empathy, because I've been through it myself. Whereas my husband didn't experience the same concerns and difficulties with learning. Learning didn't come naturally to me. I really had to work at it, especially sort of spelling and writing and things like that did actually develop over time. But they weren't instantly there. They weren't something that I just was this natural, scholar at all. So the concept of becoming comfortable with discomfort is something that has come up, and I was thinking about it in relation to money too, because I've had to become very comfortable with discomfort in building my app. I'm actually ironically wearing a Prosperous shirt today. If you're watching the video, you'll see it popping up every now and then. But the techie side, it was incredibly uncomfortable, and still is, because there's a lot that I don't know, and I don't know what I don't know until I hit something I don't know, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, something else I have to learn. So I've had to learn to lean into it, and just to kind of be comfortable with the fact that I will generally have to go and find the answers. I don't just know them, which, having worked in the space with money and finance and numbers for so long, there's still a learning journey, but there's a lot of knowledge that I've built up and a lot of experience that I personally have from doing investments and managing and creating systems and doing all these things myself. But when it comes to technology, that's a very different story. But then I watch my friend who's been helping me, who used to be a software developer, and he's just click, 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 he's doing all the things, and I'm watching, trying to keep up, going, whoa, I have no idea what you're doing right now. But then I know some of my clients can sometimes feel that way when I'm click, click, clicking around, doing things in previously Excel and then now in Prosperous, because I've been in it and I've been using it, and I've been making adjustments and tweaks and improvements to it as I've been using it. So I've transitioned all of my spreadsheets now into Prosperous, and I'm loving it. And I'm getting good feedback from people once they're using it as well. So that discomfort, when you move beyond it and you not master something, but you become a bit more comfortable in one area, it feels amazing. So it's just remembering that, and remembering that it's okay to feel that discomfort, because it's part of the journey. So there's a couple of things I wanted to cover off today. And one of them is, when do you feel the discomfort? It's kind of actually becoming aware of it as well, because I think so often we're used to being at least competent or in control of a situation, that when we do actually have to lean into feeling a bit more uncomfortable in an area that we don't know about or we've been avoiding, that we just kind of get a bit narky, or we start to react, or we feel a bit icky. So it's that sort of thing, like how to actually like take a step back and go, okay, what's going on here? Why am I feeling this way? And recognizing what is happening. If it's discomfort around, you're up leveling or something else is going on, then to acknowledge it and go, okay, all right, I need to just realize that this is what's happening and figure out how to work through it. And this is where habits can help. So having sort of like a daily check-in with yourself, doing a bit of meditation, having the habit of, and this is something which I try to do and I normally succeed at, but I did have a situation this week where I did not, which is when something happens and it annoys you something triggers you essentially, that before you react, you pause. Take a breath, maybe walk away from the situation. In this particular situation, I was already outside, so I couldn't go outside, but there was some behavior in a play sort of area that was just incredibly unfair, and I'm watching the unfairness unfold, and it just like boiled up inside of me. And this like anger came out to just like stand up for the kids who I felt needed to be stood up for. But in, reflection, I should have just like walked away and just taken a breath and just, yeah. So it's interesting. So we all have these. But my normal habit is to pause, breathe, and either remove myself from the room or the situation and then just gain a little bit of perspective. So the same thing goes with money as well. And I'm noticing at the moment, so we're going through a bit of a situation where sort of helping my mum kind of move into a different sort of dwelling, and rather than just getting like very go because I've got so many things on my list, so rather than doing all of that, like sitting back and going, okay, what is really the right thing here? Is this really the right action to take? And if it is, then okay, let's just do one thing. So trying to be a bit more measured. So I suppose when it comes to making decisions, especially around money, rather than avoiding the decision, recognizing that discomfort, and then giving yourself that space, having a habit of reflection and time and space to be able to contemplate and really, really think about what it is and feel into it as well, about what is the right sort of step to take next. And when we kind of get to that point, sometimes there could be a knowledge gap or an information gap that's required. So just as an example with this whole thing with my mum in the house, bringing in a real estate agent to give us an idea of, well, what could what kind of price range we're looking at, because that then informs what sort of money we're looking at to be able to then buy another place. Because at the moment things are going so quickly, you really need to have that information at your fingertips so that you can be looking at the right sort of properties and being able to offer the right kinds of prices. Already had an experience where we definitely under offered, although the market is just crazy. So, and it hasn't worked. It didn't work this way when I bought my home. So it's acknowledging how things changed. There was a knowledge gap. There was information missing. So it's understanding, is that what's also part of the situation with yourself and money? Do you need to up level? Like, do you need to understand something a bit more? Do you need to maybe, do a little bit of a course? Because there's lots of courses around at the moment, but you could see, like, do you need to learn a bit more about property? And maybe have a chat to some like if there's a real estate agent in your realm who can kind of explain what's going on to you. Listen to some podcasts. There's some really good podcasts around property. I was actually listening to an episode this morning around rent vesting. I have to admit, coming from my tax background, there were a few things that they were talking about. I'm like, yeah, but you're not considering the tax consequences there. But then, that's just sort of my filter. But it was at least really interesting to hear the process broken down. And then, is there, from a share investing perspective, again, really, really great podcast, lots of really good free information out there. If you want some recommendations on some of these, let me know, because there's Equity Mates is one I've been listening to. They're mainly about shares, but they did do an episode about rent vesting. And then Australian Investors, I think it's the Owen Rask podcast. His is also very good from just an overall investing kind of perspective and financial sort of management. So there might be some knowledge gaps to fill there that might help you feel a little bit less discomfort when it comes to money. And then it's practice over procrastination. And this is, again, something I'm going to try not to put too much of my mum voice on, but I'm like that with my daughter. I was like, if you want to get better at reading and writing, you've got to actually practice it. The more you procrastinate, the worse you feel. And then you don't actually get the practice, which means you're not going to feel as confident. And then you don't do it because you don't feel confident. And so this cycle then continues. But the same thing happens for grown-ups in different areas. So if it's to do with money, you might be procrastinating and partly it could just be because you just don't have enough information, like the right information or enough knowledge. And so therefore we focus on the procrastination rather than taking that step prior to it, which is understanding that. And then the step prior to that, which is looking at your habits. And then you go beyond that and actually understand that you're sitting in that discomfort, and that's what's driving your procrastination. So it's really important to sort of go through this process to actually then go, okay, well, what's driving that procrastination and that avoidance around looking at money and finances? And then to start the practicing process. And by that, I mean, practice looking at your bank statements when they come in. I'm gonna sort of tweak my app here again, but that gives you a lot of visibility, and it's a practicing process as well too, because you start to see it and you start to see your own spending behavior, and it's really interesting. Like I'm looking at mine because I see it all categorized, and I was like, yep, I can see the spikes when I can see, oh yep, there's school fees. Yep, school fees come in there, and they come in there. In between, I do spend quite a bit on groceries, but less on eating out. So I'm happy with that, because I see a lot of clients where they've got, they spend a lot on groceries, but they also spend a lot on eating out. And you're like, well, one should really balance out the other. I do a lot of cooking, and my husband likes to cook a bit as well. So seeing one of those higher is okay, but I still need to make sure that we're not like overspending on the groceries, because then you also get waste and you get duplication. I came back from Costco one time and I'd bought some tomato paste, or a tray, because you don't buy just one, you buy a tray of I think 12 little tins. And I already had a tray in the pantry, and I thought I'd looked beforehand, but clearly I hadn't. So now I have 2 trays. Thankfully they're in tins and they will last a while, but I still didn't need to spend on that extra tray. I will eventually use it, so it's okay. But if it was perishable, then I'd be like, oh my gosh, I'm probably going to not be able to eat that before it expires. So it's reducing waste as well, and duplication. So that's where the practice part, sort of start to practice looking at your money. You can practice with investing. You can look in your super. Even just being able to log into your super and looking at that once a month is probably a good place to start and to practice that. To be able to even know how to log in to see your bank accounts, because there's quite a few people I know or clients especially, who don't know what their interest rate is. How do they get what their current balance is? And then just look at some of the, for instance, in Prosperous, I've got a debt repayment or a loan repayment calculator. Have a bit of a play with that. See what you can do in terms of paying back your home loan, and how that could be, even maybe an extra $100 a month. What difference is that going to make over time? And then suddenly you're more motivated to try and find that extra $100, because you're like, oh my gosh, that's going to take 2 or 3 years off my loan, and maybe $20,000. I mean, I could definitely do with the $20,000. The bank does not need it. So it's things like that. Get into the practice of just looking at that, doing some micro investing and starting to, test the waters in that way and realize it's not that scary. So little by little. So that then becomes like chunking down the actions. And then the practice becomes the repetition of that, of what actions do you need to take, and then to practice those again and again. And you can set it up. I was writing some notes before, and something made me literally as I'm writing this, I get like a notification on my phone from Duolingo, because I haven't done my Duolingo learning for today. And it's, it's the afternoon, so it's like, you need to do your Duolingo, which as soon as I finish this podcast episode, I will do my Duolingo, because he gets really annoying. That little green bird gets really annoying if you don't do your daily lesson. But it's good. It's kind of gamified it a bit in the way, in ways, because I've been doing it now. I think I'm on a 10-day streak. So of course I don't want to undo that. So I want to keep going, to keep my streak going. So you don't want to let yourself down. So if you can treat your money a little bit like Duolingo, and regularly do your practice and regularly take little actions and not procrastinate, because you will feel better. And then you'll have these regular sort of streaks of looking at your money and going, wow, this is actually not as scary as I thought. I don't know what I've been avoiding for so long. Like, it's actually quite simple and it can be easy, especially the more you do it. This is definitely like exercise. The more you do it, the easier it gets. Your money muscle will really just become stronger. And you'll start to really, really lean into it. So it's definitely worthwhile to start and stop procrastinating on. But yeah, so I'll just go through those things again that I spoke about in terms of becoming comfortable with the discomfort. Is firstly identifying the discomfort and acknowledging it. Secondly is, what are the habits that you can use to help? So helping habits for recognizing and then moving beyond the discomfort. And then knowledge gaps or information lack of, or little, requiring more information where you might be lacking in information, and a knowledge gap might be there as well. So identify which one it is and figure out how to fill that. And then practice over procrastination. And that leads to you're chunking down your actions. So you have identify your little actions and then practice and keep going again and again. Be consistent. And then finally, treat it like Duolingo is nudging you every day or once a week or once a month, depending on what frequency you want to do it. And just move through it, because it is worth it and you can do it. And it just takes, my Duolingo is 10 minutes a day. Again, that's the beauty of having something like Prosperous. You can literally do it you can actually do this in less than 10 minutes a day. Once you get it all set up and humming, you don't even need to spend that much time. You could maybe spend 10 minutes a week. So you could definitely, if you can do 10 minutes a day on Duolingo, you can definitely spend 10 minutes a week on your finances. And then you can focus on something else in your life. There'll be other things that you can give your attention to. And then make sure that you're getting your money set up and it's humming along, and then you can just enjoy life. Doesn't that sound great? So I'll leave you with that for this week, and have a wonderful week. And let me know how you go. I'd love to hear stories. Okay, have a good one.